Hi, welcome back to another Java tutorial. Today we will be doing a Leetcode question, the Leetcode question to sum in Java. So let's begin. So first of all, I'm going to look at the problem statement. So given an array of integers nums and an integer target, return the indexes of two numbers such that they add up to the target. So you may assume that each input will have exactly one solution and not the same element twice. And then here they give you a few test cases. So here you'll notice they give you an array and a target 9, and we have to figure out which numbers will add up and which indexes will add up. So in this case, index 0 and index 1 both add up to that. So yeah, let's begin. So let's begin implementing this solution. So to implement this solution, what we need to do is to traverse through there are many ways we could do this, but the way we're going to do it is not the most optimal, but I feel like it's a pretty beginner friendly and simple, so we're going to do that. So we're going to traverse through the array twice using for loops. Each time we traverse the array, we're going to get the first number and the second number, and then in the end, after we've traversed through both of them and have stored the first and second index, then what we're going to do is just return that number. So then we're going to check if it's a two sum and return. So let's do that. So let's first traverse through the array the first time. So int I is equal to 0. Then we're going to do I is less than nums dot length colon, and then I increments I colon. Now let's store the first number. So let's call first num is equal to 0 is equal to nums index I. And now let's traverse through the array a second time, but before we do that, let me just add a few comments so then you can see what is actually going on. I feel like this is helpful so then you can actually understand what we're doing in the code. So traverse through the array the first time to get first num, and then here store first num in a int variable. Alright, now that we've done that, now let's traverse through the array a second time using another for loop. Int j, we can call this j is equal to, and then here we'll do I plus 1. So basically the reason for this is because we want to traverse through the rest of the array. We've traversed through the array the first time and gotten our first num. Now we want to get the rest of the array. And note, it says here you may not use the same element twice. That's why we have to traverse through the rest of the array. We can't traverse through the first num because then there's a possibility we'll get the first num, and we don't want that. So then what we're going to do is j is nums.length colon, same thing, j++, and then here let's add curly braces, and then let me just add a comment here. Traverse through array second time. Okay, so we're going to traverse through the array a second time to get the second num. Okay, and it's fine if there are a few grammar mistakes. You get the idea of what I'm doing here. So yeah, now let's store that num. So second num is equal to nums index j. Now you may be wondering that we don't want the values. The problem statement told us to get the indexes, not the values. Well, the reason we want the reason we want the values is so that we can check whether it's a two sum. So next what we're gonna do is if first num is plus second num is equal to the target value. So basically, if this if the values given to the user, if there are any two sums in the array, then we want to return an array with the indexes of those two sums. So what we're going to do first, let me add a comment saying checking if array has any two sums. If so, we'll execute the code in this if statement. And then here, and I'm just adding these comments again, as I said before, to just give you a better understanding of what's happening in the code. So then you can see like what each line of your code does. And this is actually helpful, so then you can see what each line of your code, so then you know this line of code does this, this does that, and etc. Now anyway, what we want to do, if it is a two sum, so if first num plus second num is equal to target, then we want to return a new int array with the indexes. Now be careful, because there is a mistake you may do here. You may accidentally return first and second num. Don't do that, because here if you read the problem statement, it'll say return the indices, not return the values of the two numbers. So in this case, we're gonna return the indices. So to return the indexes, basically all we have to do is return nums. We have to return the I index that we got here and the J index that we got there. So I and J, because I and J were the indexes for the first and second num, as you saw when we initialized them here. And then here, let's add a comment. Return the new array with the indices of first and second num. Okay, yeah, so then we should be good. One more thing left for us to do is that we want to handle a check where, let's assume that there are no two sums or something is null. Then what we want to do is we'll just return new int array that's empty. Though I'm not sure about LeetCode's test cases here. It may want it to return either a 0 or something. We'll find out. So here, now we'll just say if no two sum was found or something was null, by default return empty array. Okay, so yeah, this should be it. Let's run the code and see if it works. Okay, all right, nice. So it says our input was accepted. Let's run it against their test cases by submitting our value. So it's running, and awesome. So we see a success. And so yeah, these are the details if you want to know your runtime and your speed and the memory. And yeah, so this was a simple solution. Now I know that there are ways to optimize this, but I'm not going to go over that in this tutorial. For now, this is a good solution. This is a pretty basic solution that you can use to implement the two sum. So I get that there are other ways you can do this with stacks or hash map, but for this example, this was a pretty simple solution where you just traverse through the array twice and then get the numbers and then return their indexes. So yeah, and then here, if you want to see, I've put these comments here, so if you want to pause the video and just like get a quick understanding, you can read these comments through so you understand exactly what each line of code is doing. Those comments are helpful, so then you see, all right, well, this line of code does this,